Hi, everybody. Hello, hello. Hi, hi. Welcome, welcome to the last issue of Shelter in Peace, the quarantine series. So this is the last one of the series of meetings that I am hosting with my students and with everybody else about spirituality, the spiritual path, spiritual awakening, and related things. So this is going to be the last one. If you are watching, please use this link to join uh, the broadcast, and we can discuss whatever you want to discuss. Share anything you like. Uh, I will also answer your question and provide you advice and guidance if that is that you're looking for. I'll do my best. So after that, I will probably still make regular video meetings for everybody, at least once a week. I'm planning, but we'll experiment with twice a week as well. Probably the next one will be Thursday, Wednesday, or Saturday. I will let everybody know. And also, I'm really looking forward to this quarantine situation, um, the coronavirus situation, to kind of become a little less uh, restrictive, so that we could host live satsang's again. And I am very much looking forward to seeing you again, you guys, in real life. So without further ado, let me connect to my guests. So we have a new guest. I've never seen one before. Jesse. Hi, Jesse. Hello, Jesse. How's it
Hello.
going? How are
It's going.
you?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you very much for joining, for participating in the show. I have never seen you before. It is wonderful to meet you. Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
Yeah, I'm excited to. It's a kind of trippy
Yes,
hearing you,
it
see
can
you,
be
see you
super
live.
tricky. Oh, what did you say?
It's kind of trippy seeing you and hearing you live because I've read all your a lot of your stuff,
Uh-huh.
but actually being in a one-on-one, it's fascinating.
Okay. So you can just, enjoy the experience, or if there is anything that you want to ask or talk about, I would be happy to.
Yeah, I could definitely come up with some questions if that's all
Let's
right.
do it.
All right. So I recently found you on Quora. I noticed some other people that I follow that respond to similar questions also followed you. So, and then I've been going through your website and reading all the questions and answers. So I'd say where I'm currently at is just trying to understand the definitions, really. I'd say for a couple of years I was in a really well, I'm going to backtrack. I came across Jed McKenna and kind of destroyed me in a sense where I
Yeah.
became really depressed and realized that I came to the conclusion that life was pointless and meaningless. However, as I'm discovering now, I'm still very much attached to my ego and what my goal is. And I say that in the sense of hopefully not like it's not my ego's goal, but I want to be able to live from a place of truth where I'm not my actions, my desires aren't governed by my ego and what it thinks it needs to be satisfied. It's more of just like I'm in alignment with reality. And I've struggled for a long time of just like, because I got in this place of apathy, like, what do I do with my time? Like, how should I make money? Is there even any point to make money? And
Right. Yes.
it just felt pointless. And then
Yes.
it becomes a very depressing.
Yes. 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 How are you feeling now?
I feel good. Meditation has been a lot easier since I've
Mm-hmm.
approached it in the sense of just sit still and enjoy the silence.
Mm-hmm.
rather than like, oh, you have to be able to not experience thought or
Right. No. There's no such goal. No. Mm-hmm.
and then I go on these waves where I feel like this is wonderful to just let life unfold, and then I also
Right.
get back,
Mm-hmm.
like if I'm on social media too much, I'm like, oh, I should be doing this or I should be doing that.
Yeah. It kind of triggers you, and it kind of pulls you, like things that yeah, you see kind of, familiar messages, familiar experience. So let me ask you, before I assume anything about your experience. uh, are you able to observe whatever it is that you call ego, right? And whatever it is that is dissatisfied and needs some, your desires. Have you been able to observe those, and have you been able to see on some level that it's a quest for satisfaction, uh, that it's quest for satisfying the desires and search for happiness coming through that is on some level delusional, that it's never going to be satisfied? Have you been able to see that?
I believe so, because there's times where I think I should be doing this, and I realize, well, is that just to get validation from other people, or is that because
Oh,
I
you
want?
see that. Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm. And are you able to relate to the language of other spiritual teachers, like, let's say, Adya or Rupert Spira or some other teachers that are speaking about non-duality, when they speak about consciousness, awareness in the language of identity? So have when you read Jed McKenna, were there any kind of significant identity shifts in your experience?
Well,
Meaning, like, does the thing that you called yourself, or anything that is related to self, you, me, I, has the experience of that kind of changed in you?
definitely.
It did, right? So,
Yeah.
can you tell me a little bit more about it?
Yeah. Well, so one big thing happened is I would consider, if I was to use the term sexuality, it's like completely fluid. And for like 30 years of my life, I was very like scared to express that. And so I had this identity that I was hiding, and I felt guilt and shame. And then after reading Jed's book, I started becoming like, do I need to like care about labels and terms? And so I started like telling people, and it was this big shift. But then now I'm at this point, it's like, why am I even taking
Hold on,
on?
hold on. I mean, I understand what you're saying, but you are speaking of identity as of something that you describe yourself as,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm speaking of identity as something that you feel yourself as.
Feel myself as.
Yes. So I understand that that you have become much more fluid and less rigid in describing what you are or who you are to other people. But when I was speaking about shifts of identity, or actually thinking of yourself as somebody, but when I was speaking of shifts of identity, I meant in your direct experience. So in your experience and perception of life, were there any shifts that you thought, well, okay, so I thought I was something, and I realized I was something else, or so the kind of experience of being an I, has anything changed? Has anything happened to it? So my understanding is that uh, I wonder if you could notice, because, okay, so my understanding is that you read Jed McKenna. There
Mm-hmm.
was a moment when you have uh, kind of intellectually, let's say, accept that life is meaningless, or at least you stopped kind of arguing with it, right? And that actually spiraled you into depression, or like some grieving, or some period of your life, right? And then after you, what you're saying right now is, it seems like what you're saying is that it's not as bad right now. The meditation became much more enjoyable, right? But has there been any other changes, right? So what if you look back, before you read the book, before you read the book, and then you read the book, then you had a difficult time, and now, right? So what has anything changed in your experience, other than like, would you describe it as anything more than, okay, I read the book, that I was depressed for a while and now I'm not? Was there anything else that changed in your experience? Were there any shifts of perceptions? Was there any insights, that are kind of specific to you, or was there any shifts in your experiential reality that felt like they are kind of more or less permanent, or some glimpses, or it felt like you are experiencing a more true reality, or perceiving a more true reality? I'm just trying I'm trying to make this conversation about your internal experience.
Mm-hmm.
Because so I have been through a bunch of depressions in my life, right? Depression is generally a crisis of identity. Depression is generally a crisis of meaning, right? Depression is generally a crisis of letting go, a resistance to change. And I mean, some depression, like for example, the midlife crisis is like is a quintessential crisis of meaning. It's like the midlife crisis is commonly described of, okay, well, coming to terms that not all, that all your dreams are not gonna come true, and kind of coming to terms that your life, that you will have to let go of a bunch of dreams in life, because they're not going to be the reality. So people can go through meaningless and despair, right? So I'm trying to see if there was a change in your perception of life, or you have just gone through depression. And even if you have just gone through depression, every depression does kind of make you wiser a little bit, right? So if there is any changes in how you perceive life and how you experience life before and after this thing happened to you, if you could speak about them somewhat, right? Because I want to see how your internal experience evolves, and kind of what it is, what it's like now.
Okay, I read Jed McKenna in 2015, and I did not actually start feeling like I was observing reality differently until like in the last 6 months. And now I feel like now it's an observation. Like things that, like before, it's constantly like, how dare that person get in front of me? Why is this shitty? Why does it have to be that way? Why is the world unfair? And now it's becoming more and more where I'm just looking out a window and like, well, that's just what is outside.
Just what it is. What's that?
That's just what's outside. So.
Right. It's just what it is. Yes. Okay. Very good. Yes. Okay. Wow. So wonderful. I mean, this is a beautiful example. So it's been 5 years, right? So basically, correct me if I'm wrong. I just want to make sure that I understand it. So you read Jed McKenna, then there was some sort of a period of serious depression where you were trying to come to terms with the meaninglessness of life. There was I understand that it was very, very difficult emotionally for you, and it
Yeah, it was
lasted.
suicidal lots of
Yes,
times.
okay, exact, wonderful. So you were like suicidal, lots of despair. Was there fear?
A lot of the fear was just like all the pain I was going to leave for my family. Like
Hmm.
being like, well, it's going to
Gotcha,
be.
gotcha. Hmm.
I mean, I actually felt really content if like I was to die, I would be completely okay.
Yeah. I understand. But okay, but so there was a bunch of emotional grieving and stuff, and then sooner or later, right? It got like after 5 years, it kind of got to a point, and you can't tell when exactly, where you are always more or less constantly witnessing your whining mind. Is that a more or less correct description?
Yeah, I'm very parent of it being a separate whining now than
Right. But it does not affect your behavior the same way it used to.
definitely not as much,
Right.
not nearly as much.
So you can observe it somewhat dispassionately now, right?
Yes.
Okay. So it's a beautiful example. So I really appreciate you dialing in, because I want everybody to see it, basically, because it is a beautiful. So based on what I'm saying, right? uh, Based on what, like, to me, your description is a description of a quintessential, not a quintessential, but the, uh, I want to say a different word, like classical or whatever, like a very kind of normal, uh, kind of state of disidentification with the ego, right? So what you're describing to me is like the moment when you realized that life is meaningless, you kind of no longer started to believe your own bullshit. And so you have started, you have disidentified with the ego, and that is why it was so painful. And then there was a lot of trauma, drama, but then when it settled down, you sort of is can always witness it, right? And yet, notice the interesting kind of thing is that you never said anything that I am consciousness, I am awareness, I am witness, I am awake, this is enlightenment. Uh, you never said anything about how your identity shifted. So there was not like a dramatic shift. You thought I was one thing, but then it was a dramatic, like, oh, I'm something else entirely. I'm an infinite awareness, and things like that. And yet, that the voice in your mind, the emotions that it experiences, is the discontent, the drama, the emotion that you experience is not actually you, and you don't have to act on it. And you probably also know, just based on all of the time that passed, that the less attention you give, the less it kind of bothers you, and it kind of slowly stopped bothering you about the things that it used to bother you about. I'm pretty sure you would agree with that.
Hmm.
And so you kind of know where it's going, right? You kind of know that it's going in the direction of, when I look outside and it's just what it is, and everything is just what it is, and this thing is sort of, it will whine, will slowly, it will stop whining, and you'll just be content and equanimous, and you kind of know where it's going. And yet, you don't use any spiritual terminology. You don't say I am awareness. You don't say that, oh, at this moment I found infinite awareness, blah 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 blah. You see? No, for you it was, oh, my life is meaningless, and boom, and then you got into, like, spiraled into depression, right? But to me, that's kind of pretty much. And let me ask you another question. What when you were going through this depression, the realization of the meaninglessness of life, were the moment of joy and wonder, what were the moments and periods of joy and wonder that is related to the meaninglessness of life? So did you ever experience happiness, the feelings of happiness, freedom, or joy, precisely because life is meaningless?
Yeah, there's times where I felt like everything that I've like built up in my head that I wanted to achieve or accomplish,
But
like
nothing.
it's like I'm here
Right.
in this moment and
Yes.
that's all I need.
Yes. 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 So notice, guys, if you were watching, just notice there's absolutely no spiritual language that Jesse uses. He never speaks about awareness, consciousness, infinity, like things like that. But he's speaking about the same thing, right? So I don't know the depth of his experiential journey. It is like I have absolutely no idea if he will ever experience those. I mean, describe it with the words, right? So that he will ever describe his experience with the words that other people sometimes use. You see, like but what he's describing in his experience and what he's describing and the changes that he went through, right? It's the same spiritual process. It's the same spiritual process, you know. And so the danger in instead of when you're hearing some people speak about, I'm sorry, Jess, I just want to use you because it's such a wonderful example. I just want to use you for other people, that have not realized what you have realized, that haven't gone through what you have gone through, and that have not yet found this this sort of, maybe not complete yet, but still relatively deep peace that you have been enjoying and deepening after the difficult realization. And I'm sure there will be more difficulties, and I'm sure the peace will grow, but it has been. And so I'm speaking to people that have never found it yet. And when we read spiritual literature and when we listen to masters and they all say about, oh, none of this is real, or only awareness, that you are infinite, you're unlimited, infinite awareness, spaciousness. Wonder if you experience that, wonderful, you will be able to relate, right? But the what the mind tends to do is it takes the words and it pictures, it fantasizes about an experience, and it tries to create it starts to anticipate, tries to create an image of this experience, and then you start searching for it. So just like you were searching like for happiness or enlightenment externally, first you were searching for enlightenment externally, not enlightenment, happiness, right? So you were searching for, and again, Jesse, I'm not addressing you, but I just want to thank you for this opportunity. So guys, like you search for happiness outside, externally, right? But then you read a bunch of books about enlightenment, and especially the experience of this infinite consciousness or infinite awareness, something like that, and you can imagine it, and you start searching for it internally, but you will never find it. You see, because the key is to stop the search. Don't search. So focus only on your experience, exclusively on your experience. Methods are what's important when you are reading books about enlightenment, or maybe what it feels like, or what it does to you, but not the specific description of experience. So don't try to like, for example, you read somebody's description of the infinite consciousness or spaciousness, the lightness and everything. Don't try to imagine how it feels like and kind of evoke it. You see, don't try to find it in your experience. It never works this way. It never works this way. The path is yours. The realizations that you will make on the path, you will make them when it's time. You see, the whole journey is about accepting the reality of your life, and accepting the experience of your life, as Jesse said, right here, right now. And one is not possible without the other, you see. it is the reality of your life that life is meaningless, and whatever meaning your life has is completely up to you. You know what it doesn't mean to have meaning. It's you are self-contained in that. It's the reality of that, but it is difficult to accept, and and that's why like Jesse feels like he is right here right now most of the time, or some of the time, or partially, or whatever. But that is what changed in him, right? And the reason is because he became more honest. The reason he's more accepting of reality, not because he found some infinite consciousness. So things like that happen, and they can happen very dramatically, and there could be experience of infinite awareness and witnessing and whatever, and spaciousness, so many things, and they're all beautiful. They happen, you know, but they're not in itself the goal. The goal is honesty, truth, well-being, just being at peace with this life, not at war with it, being at peace with yourself. And of course we're not, because we have so much conditioning to be constantly discontent and hate this life and everything, that because we've been taught to try to find meaning and happiness in it with our actions and validation from other people. So when you understand how much bullshit it is, it's difficult. But that ultimately brings you to truth, honesty, and authenticity, not an infinite experience of consciousness. You see? So the way that people describe their experience is just words. It's just words. What was going to happen, what is going to be happening to you in this process will be yours, and you will speak your own words about it. So that's very important. And so again, I mean, the point that I'm often time making, the process is not, it's about your life. That's all it is. It's not about just one simple moment of finding consciousness or awareness. Uh, you can make a very big mistake by trying to just focus on that and trying to create it, reading all the books and trying all the methods, waiting for it to happen to you. No, it is personal. It is about you. It is about you, because Jesse realized that his life is meaningless. That's why it was hard for him. He didn't realize that somebody else's life is meaningless. He realized that his life. That's why it's hard. Not because. So it's wonderful, Jesse. Thank you very much for this opportunity for me to remind that you gave me to remind everybody that that it's not about the spiritual language. So okay, so thank you for this feedback. Sorry for this background, and now, if you have any questions.
One question, just to clarify, you mentioned how I should be focusing on the way I feel rather than like what I'm reading about someone else's experience. So if I want to continue to deepen my sense of truth and reality in my life, would it be accurate to say that by just continuing to observe, sit in silence, just notice how I'm feeling? But you also use the word, it's the methods that matter. So are there any other methods that, and I'm sure you've mentioned them in like somewhere, but like.
So okay, so your mind is it true? First of all, is it true that your mind is always in a more or less witnessing state?
Yes.
So you're always in a more or less meditative state.
Personally.
Well, those are the same things, but okay. So okay. So what happens when you meditate? You said meditation is much easier. Is it pleasant? Is there experience? Is it like, tell me what happens if you meditate for like an hour or an hour?
I haven't made it that long.
Okay, so what happens when you tried to make it?
Well, it always gets to the point where it's like my back hurts. But the experience.
Change your position, because the position doesn't matter at all.
No, I mean, I sat against a wall yesterday to.
Doesn't matter. You can lie down. You can lie on your stomach. You can curl up. You can do absolutely anything you want. I mean, the position doesn't matter at all. Just use the one that is like most relaxing.
Okay.
But okay. So when does your back start hurting? So what was the longest that
A half hour.
half hour? Okay. So what happens during this half hour?
It's kind of like all the walls move far away, and then I'm this like thought actually starts to disappear, and I feel like I'm sensing the space in between my thoughts, and it's very, very vast, and it's calming. Like it's a very enjoyable experience because it's just there's no noise, there's no do this or do that. It's like being asleep while I'm awake.
Right. Yes. 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 Like being asleep while you're awake. Yes. 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 Exactly. Exactly. And okay. So the first kind of until your back start hurting. So kind of your first half an hour is usually like it's very peaceful and calming usually, right? Okay. Okay. So since you know so yeah, so you have a fairly like easy access to this consciousness, awareness, or whatever. It doesn't matter, true nature, and it's kind of always with you. So when you close your eyes and meditate, thoughts disappear, and you go there pretty fast. Yes, but during the daytime, there's still thought and there's still emotion associated with thought and rumination, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah. So you can rest, you can spend, you can use it as an enjoyable experience. You can rest as long as you want there. It's always with you. It's always your space. It is your true nature. Absolutely. There's no question about it. But if you do want to deepen, if you want to deepen this state, and if you want to continue kind of cleansing yourself of egoic conditioning, uh, kind of removing the falsehoods, removing the delusions, right? So, for example, one of the illusions that you removed is that your life must have a meaning, must have a goal. You see, like it's a delusion you remove. Was it pleasant? No, but look at your well-being now. It's much better than before. So the process kind of continues like that. Because ultimately, you see, I could even say that you know sort of this feeling of spaciousness, emptiness is just how an empty, kind of resting, sleeping brain feels like. There's nothing like spiritual about it, and just like there's nothing spiritual about looking at a tree and not thinking about anything. But the habits of the mind, they don't really go away very quickly. So even when you disidentify with the ego, even if you realize that all of your experience is you, is that you can observe your thoughts, your emotions, that all of this passes, and kind of how Rupert Spira says, by the way, very correctly, very rightly, that I is the what is this? Is like the permanent part of all of your experience. So it's the part of your experience that is unchanging, right? So everything in your experience is changing, but awareness, consciousness, you, whatever, like think, perceiver, it doesn't matter how you call it, but this part is unchanging. So, but you still perceive a bunch of things that you know is coming from your conditioning, is coming from the ego. So in order to kind of get to them, in order to get to a deeper state, in order to integrate, to get rid of or to integrate, it's the same thing. More of your conditioning, uh, you will have to. Basically, what does the job is witnessing. It's just that there is there are different ways. Let me think how to best answer this question. Okay, so what does the job of dissolving your conditioning is witnessing, but no conditioning can be dissolved before it can kind of be observed, looked at, witnessed, experienced, understood, and let go, because your emotional need has been exhausted, right? So So when it happens in life, then I give advice to really approach and investigate and accept any emotion as a bodily experience. So when somebody triggers you in life, when somebody insults you or whatever, when somebody makes you angry, when you don't have to react. Yes, of course, sometimes you will react. Of course, sometimes you will regret it. But what I advise is don't resist. So if somebody made you angry internally, allow the anger completely, right? So because we resist the anger because we think on some level that it's bad to be angry, right? And actually, that's the reason why our emotions feel so unpleasant, is because the only reason that we separate, that we divide emotion into positive and negative, is because basically we view some emotion as negative. So the the only reason that you consider some of the emotion to be unpleasant is because you view them as unpleasant. The reality is that the bodily sensations that these emotions create are actually neutral. What makes them unpleasant for you is the ideas in the mind that they're unpleasant. You see? So therefore, to unlearn this, it's a good method to whenever you have an emotion that you consider unpleasant, and that actually applies to fear and everything as it manifests in the body, then you take your awareness, you take your focus into the body, and you investigate it, and you really, with a curiosity, you allow yourself to feel all the way through how it affects your body. And you will see that only the mind thinks that, oh, no, I really don't want to be angry, or I really don't want to like cry. But really for you, it's a rather neutral experience. Not only that it comes and goes, for sure, but also as it lasts, kind of the only reason that you wanted to stop, even if you have some equanimity already, but still on some level, if you feel unpleasant emotion, then you want it to stop. That's why you would say it's unpleasant, right? Otherwise you would never say it's unpleasant, right? If you tell me, I still get angry, then you automatically simultaneously telling me that in my experience, sometimes I there's still something that I don't want to experience, and I don't like it when I feel it. I just know it. I can observe it. It has less power over me. It doesn't control me as much, but it's still unpleasant to me. Right. So the only reason it's unpleasant is because we don't want to go there. Right. So over this unpleasantness, go and explore the emotion in the body. So even as you feel it, you will see that it is very neutral. It doesn't make you do anything, actually. So that's one way as you can deepen this realization, because you see, it's not even detachment. It's not detachment. It's different. It's like you have gained the ability to witness this thing, which this you, right? This prior you, whatever your persona. But now you have to love it. You see, so when he feels bad or sad and stuff, just allow him, just kind of embrace it, sort of hug it, like approach it, you see? So it is oftentimes creates even more emotion. It oftentimes creates tears of compassion and things like that. And you approach and embrace that. So that's one thing. Now, meditation, that's when it comes up in life. Meditation, if you do it long enough, it will uncover it too, automatically, because you will get bored, you will get restless. And also the reasons because you will get bored and you will get restless is also because awareness, consciousness, witnessing, if left alone, if you don't occupy yourself with a task, because I'm sure if you occupy yourself with a task, then you forget to witness, usually, then this witnessing, it automatically uncovers more stuff that you don't want to see. If left alone for a long enough time, it automatically kind of, okay, so this awareness, consciousness automatically looks for things that you hid from yourself to illuminate them, because that's a natural state. If it was a natural state, then it wouldn't be the case. Then I would kind of have to train you, but I don't have to. It's a natural state. So you do it automatically to yourself. I don't need to do anything, right? So when you meditate for a long time, more than half an hour. Well, first, of course, there's a lot of relief, right? Also, as thoughts subside, oh, this is just so great that you may spend a lot of time in this sort of half an hour one, but sooner or later you will go deeper. Well, first it will get tired, it will get bored, and then also with time you will move through it. It's a kind of, there is more, right? There is more, because so when the thoughts, if thoughts temporarily subside, and you're in this state, then but if they're still present with all the time usually, and with emotion, then they're still suffering. So sooner or later you will be looking deeper and investigate into the source of all the kind of negative thought, and deeper trauma, and deeper suffering, and that happens automatically usually, like in meditation and stuff like that. But you have to give it enough time, you know. And so that's what I can recommend. Another recommendation is meditation with the help of psychedelics. So it's the same thing. I mean, start slow if you want to take this, but don't take any large doses, like huge. No. But what it's going to do is it's going to intensify the meditation experience. Intensify, show you things that you have not seen yet about yourself. So show you some other lies. And also, I mean, don't chase any like experiences. Of course, if you take a large dose, you can have a very like huge experience, but it doesn't matter. As you know, at your own from your own example, it doesn't matter. Truth matters, not experience. Truth matters to your well-being, determined by how truthful you are, not the experiences that you had. So yes, you can do that, and even if, like, let's say if you do normal meditation for half an hour or an hour, and every time you just spend time with this kind of nice I'm sleeping but not sleeping thing, if you use it with some psychedelics, you wouldn't be able to do that. It will kind of uncover, it will take you deeper, it will uncover some other emotional suppression, it will uncover some other things, some other yes. So
It's funny you mentioned that, because
mhm.
I did that. I experimented with that 3 months ago, and it was awful.
Yes.
And
Yeah, I knew it. Yes, it was
and
awful. And it
with
was
this,
awful until you carry it all with you. Yes.
yeah, and it's like with this new frame of mind, it's like, well, what would have happened if I would have sat there witnessing how much pain was coming up, rather than being like, oh my God, I got to put this somewhere. I got to stop feeling this.
Yes, and that's what you need to do, right? So don't worry. By the way, if in meditation you go into this very nice place and you're resting there, beautiful. You know, rest there. Take your time. Don't hurry. But sooner or later, you will be okay. I rested enough. There is more. I want to see more now. You see, it's because there's it's yes. So psychedelics, after self-realization, after the realization of this witnessing awareness, after the realization that you are not what you thought you were, right? So maybe, and again, you didn't even speak to me at these terms, that I realized that I'm not who I thought I was. But a lot of people in your shoes would actually, because they would say, well, I thought I was this voice, right? And now I'm sort of witnessing myself, right? So obviously I'm not that. So they would read all the spiritual literature, and immediately at this stage they would already start to say, I am that, I'm awareness, I'm the absolute, I'm the witness, and stuff like that. So the words that you say don't matter. What matters is your well-being. What matters is how, you know, how calm you feel, how loving you are, and things, and how much suffering this voice, this constant fantasizing about the future, or constant reliving of the past, still brings you, right? And when you in this state, when you have this witnessing going on, usually from everything that I have observed and all of my experience with myself and with my students, is that usually any psychedelic pretty much in its pain right away. Yes. So
Thank you.
yes, and so that's very, very natural. And you just kind of, just like I was describing with people, just sit with it. You know, just allow yourself to feel it. Be compassionate. Love yourself for it's just a sensation, nothing else. Just a sensation. Yes, some sensation that you really don't want to feel. Yes. So wonderful. I mean, such a wonderful conversation. Thank you very much. I really like just a beautiful example that the spiritual language is not the point. Is not the point. Yeah. So thank you very much for calling, and
Yeah,
I wish you best of luck in your practice.
thank you. That was very helpful.
Oh, wonderful! I'm very glad. I'm very glad. Monica, hi, Mike. Actually, I'm just gonna do it like this. Four of us. Uh, Hi, Monica. Hi, Alexandro.
Hey Artem, nice
Alejandro.
to see you.
Nice to see you.
Yeah, nice to see you back.
The conversation that you guys were having was really good. I enjoyed it.
Wonderful.
Yeah, it's nice to hear everything without the spiritual words.
Without labels.
Yeah, it is.
So, yeah, I like you can speak about it, in different in different words. It is interesting though because you see the sort of the interesting thing is that the strength with which one says I am awareness, I'm infinite consciousness, whatever, doesn't really correlate in my experience to the strength of its presence. You see, but oftentimes even to the strength of the ego, because it is such a profound realization, and that that you are not this voice, that you're something in which it happens. And so, you know for a very, very large number of people, that's sort of what uh, all the spiritual literature becomes attached to. But the path is much deeper. The path is about well-being, happiness, love, acceptance, truth, peace, and awareness and consciousness is actually just a tool. Because in the end, it's inconsequential. I don't care who I am. I mean, I don't care how to call myself. It makes absolutely no difference to me. I mean, the words "I'm enlightened," "I'm that," "I'm consciousness," "I'm awareness," "I'm the body," "I'm the mind," "I'm ego," like I'm Artem, I'm God, I'm Brahman, I'm life, I'm death, I'm a person. Like all of these "Ims," they are equally absurd and they're equally meaningless to me. I mean, what does it even matter? So so don't get attached to language. Don't get distracted by language. Don't think that spirituality is about insisting on who you are.
Yeah, I think that I used to compare my experience with what I used to read in spiritual literature. Like, yeah, this is where I am, or this is
Everybody
where
does.
I'm supposed to
Everybody,
be.
when they read spiritual literature, they try to imagine an experience.
Yeah.
And that is why enlightenment is always a surprise, because when or any kind of realization, because even the spiritual literature, uh, when you if it works, then you will always experience something that is different from what you imagined. So it's always going to be not how you experienced. Otherwise, it didn't. Not how you imagined it. Otherwise, it didn't work. So it's always it's a surprise, right? An authentic realization is always like, oh my god. It's always. It's never something that you acquire. It's always something that you remember, and it kind of comes quite unexpectedly. So,
I don't have questions.
Monica, Alejandro, while you putting your thoughts together, I wanted to put on the screen very quickly. MJ Nathan says, "Hi Nathan. Hi, MJ. It says, he says, or she, when I see an object outside, is there really an object outside? Or is it just a manifestation of consciousness? Is everything just consciousness? Is there anything outside? I think everything is inside. Myself, all I see, and everything. Can we say the working consciousness is also called the mind? Yes. Yes. So if you are having an experience that everything is the mind, that everything is inside of you, that you are everything, you are your reality, you are what you are seeing, you are what you are feeling, you are that object that you are looking at, then yes, it is an extremely common experience. It is a very real experience. I have had this experience for a long time. This is what people refer to when they speak about non-duality. This is what people oftentimes, this is what people refer to when they speak about the sensation of oneness. Oftentimes when some people would say that I feel like the boundaries between my body and the outside reality disappears. Everywhere I look is me. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Yes. But it is, enjoy this experience. Enjoy it, it is true. Just enjoy this experience, right? It doesn't mean that it is, the confusion sort of, it can be very confusing and disorienting, right? Because you look at a tree, let's say, right? And you can feel at some point of time, at some moment, that you're looking at yourself, that you're literally looking at yourself, right? There's nothing in your experience that is not you. But it doesn't mean that you can move it or control it or anything like that, right? So it can be very confusing. And so what does it mean? Why are you looking at a tree or even at a wall? And any object doesn't even have to be alive, and you can feel that it is you, right? But then we can think about the nature of experience. I mean, what is the nature of experience? Who is having the experience? When you're experiencing, let's say, a image of a tree, right? What is this image? Where does it come from? Somebody sends it to you, or what? I mean, is that how the tree looks like? But now the question is that something that the tree looks like for anybody, for everybody? Is there an objective? Is there an objective way a tree looks? And obviously not. It looks this way to us. We have this eye. Some other animals have another eye. If animals has no eyes, they will never see a tree. If you don't have an eye, you will never see a tree. So what you're seeing, like, there's, you have vision, you have a brain, you have the mind. The mind uses the brain uses like signals from the environment to create an image of the tree, to create an experience for you. So you literally, you cannot experience a tree. It's not possible. I mean, you are a living being. You are an organism, right? Self-contained mind. So you can only experience yourself. If you're looking at a tree, it looks a certain way. It looks a certain way because your brain perceives it a certain way. Your brain processes it a certain way. You see certain colors. You see a specific spectrum, right? As things like that, right? You cannot experience a tree. You always experience your own mind. You always experience your own brain, how it sort of drew the tree for you. You see? So when you remember it, when you remember that you have been always experiencing yourself, your vision, your hearing, you have always been experiencing yourself. You cannot experience me directly. So you have always been experiencing your senses, indivisible. Like there was never you that heard something, that saw something. It was always hearing, seeing. You are a mind experiencing yourself every second. Like that is you. You are everything in your existence is mind. Everything in your existence is your mind. Right? So you are the being. You so you can say that you could say that there is reality outside of it, right? That's outside of you, but you can say that you can never experience reality because I mean fully, right? Because you can only uh, experience parts of reality that are a part of kind of your consciousness, your senses as a kind of specific living being. You know that's why there are things in infrared spectrum. You know we will never see, right? So the reality that you live in is actually not the reality. The reality that you live in is actually the reality of your senses, and it's the same for any kind of animal. So you can explore reality with science. You can compare reality by speaking to other beings, like how they see it and stuff. But in your own experience, in your own perception, that the only thing that is available to you is your own reality, your own mind. You know, so everything is mind. Yes, I mean you cannot kind of step outside of it. Actually, I mean, the interesting thing is that the initial enlightenment is perceived as stepping outside of mind. So the reality is that you're stepping into your mind outside of ego, because ego is a very small part of the mind, but you think it's you. So when you step outside of ego into a bigger mind, and when you kind of realize, oh, I'm everything, right? Then, but it always feels like you are you that you are outside of mind. So it is kind of the funny thing is that you cannot actually transcend mind. I mean, you can only transcend ego. It's just that initially ego is believed to be mind, right? That's why in my answers sometimes I separate like between the mind and the brain. So I say that the mind is the ego of other people, of its relationship, the whole of your internal world that you use, that you inhabit, like everything that you built up for yourself, who you are, who other people are, what the relationships are, how your life is going to be, all of that. And that's the mind. And all of that get destroyed in enlightenment. Only the senses pretty much are left. And I call it the brain. But you don't have to do that. And some people don't do that, right? And then if you don't do that, then you are left in the mind. You not in the mind, but you are the mind, and you cannot transcend it. It's just that the mind gets clear and equanimous and free from aberrations and kind of egoic conditioning. But also, if the mind is everything that you can ever experience, if the mind is all, then it is by definition perceived to be infinite, and that's also where words like omniscience come from, and spirituality and stuff like that. Because if the mind is everything that you can experience, then your experience is complete. It's the absolute knowledge, right? Not, of course, in the sense of the logical knowledge. No logical knowledge can be absolute, but in the sense of experiential knowledge. So, and of course, I mean, this get distorted into concepts of omniscience and things like that. So, so yes, I mean, ultimately, everybody gets used to this experience. So any ongoing experience, if it's ongoing for long enough, becomes your baseline, right? So I'm not experiencing oneness on the ongoing basis, but neither am I experiencing separation on the ongoing basis. So because I'm used to it. But it was a very vivid experience for me also. Like everything is consciousness, nothing is outside. I am the mind. I contain the whole world. Everything. This is true. I confirm. I relate to what you are describing. Okay, guys. Sorry, Monica. Did you wanted to say something? I'm done with.
So, yeah, on the 6 lines, I think, I mean, for me, it's very difficult.
You're breaking up.
Maybe just once.
Uh-huh.
Hello,
Yes.
can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. So, they say that, that the world is not reality, but I kind of like feel that this is also a reality. I don't want to I don't know. What do you think? I think it's also part of the truth, and you cannot deny this world as part of the truth.
What? I
You cannot.
No, I didn't get. I mean, are you saying is the world true, or like I'm not? Is the world real, or
Everybody keeps saying if you read something, they say that, oh, this is dream and the reality is beyond. So I feel that this is also part of the reality, as in, I don't know. I mean,
yes, yes. I mean, dreaming is part of reality. So like another like big spiritual mistake is that you can think that you can sort of that okay. So if dreaming is not real, then you shouldn't pay any attention to it. So if I'm not real, then I shouldn't pay any attention to it, right? No, I mean, everything is your experience in real until it's seen not to be. So when you, because you see, that is sort of the definition of illusion. The illusion is by definition something that you perceive to be real. So if you perceive something to be real, then if you're being told that it's an illusion and you just intellectually adopt a stance that it's an illusion, that it's actually counterproductive. You're just trying to convince yourself that you have seen the illusory nature of something, which you haven't, and you haven't seen it. Because when something is really seen as an illusion, the illusion disappears. You see? When I see something as an illusion, I cannot actually kind of unsee it. That's the difference between seeing something as illusory and explaining. Like, for example, look at the visual illusions, right? So there are visual illusions, and they're very consistent. They're very permanent. So when you look at something, you see it in a certain way. I can explain it to you. I can give you a ruler. You will rule. You will explain. You will measure. You will see that it's illusory, but you will look at the picture again, and you will see it just like you did before. So you did not actually see that it was an illusion. I just proved it to you. So you just looked. You have proven to yourself with measurement, with something that what you saw was not factual, that your eyes deceive you, right? So but people do this all the time. People do this to themselves all the time, and counselors do this all the time. Therapists do this all the time. I can. People oftentimes know that how they feel does not relate, like does not conform to the reality, right? So people could I can prove to you, for example, if I'm a therapist, I can prove to you that you're successful. I can take your income and I could do statistical calculations, whatever, like your social class, whatever. But if you tell me, well, I mean, I still feel like a loser and I'm still depressed, then so what? You see? So people in the realm of personal, the realm of psychology, kind of the objective view of the world doesn't mean much. That's why the psyche is sort of subjective. You can be objectively popular, but subjectively feel like everybody hates you. You see, it has so, and even if I prove it to you, I mean, the best that can happen, as people oftentimes say when they try to treat their depression with counseling, is that, well, I understand that, but so what? It doesn't. I mean, I still feel the same way, because how we feel oftentimes, not oftentimes, but always actually, how we feel is determined much more by our self-image and by our trauma and by how we treat ourselves than by our actual situation. So that is sort of the difference. You see, when you actually see something as an illusion, you can no longer see it as an illusion. Like this example with a snake and a rope, right? So if you see a rope, if you think that it is a snake, right, for a second, and then you see that it's a rope, then you're not going to see it as a snake again. You see the difference. You were like, oh my God, oh, I thought it was a snake. And that's it. And that's never going to happen again, ever. Because you saw through it, that means you're not see it as a snake again. And you see the difference with visual illusions, for example. So that's the same difference as, really dissolving ego, really dropping the illusions of ego, really finishing the process, really, as Adya would say, kind of surrendering deeply, or opening the spiritual heart, or kind of surrendering on the level of heart and God, or as Rupert would say, align with the truth or whatever. It doesn't matter how you describe it, just continue in the spiritual process, because the real spiritual process is dropping away illusions. And when the illusions really drops, then first of all, it's not very comfortable, and the second of all, there's no chance in hell that you're going to believe in it again. That's why witnessing manifests, because the moment you realize that ego is an illusion, you cannot help but only witness it, because you kind of need to look at it from a point, from a position, from a location which is not illusory, which is kind of more real. Witness, true self, consciousness, awareness, Coca-Cola, doesn't matter how you call it. And sometimes you forget again, of course. It's not like, because there are many illusions, and it's not a one thing that you see that it goes away. It has a bunch of stuff, and it keeps kicking on multiple levels. The biggest illusion is that it's real and that it's you, right? The reality is it's just a bunch of programs, a bunch of trauma, a bunch of behaviors that served to protect you emotionally, mostly when you're dealing with other people. When you're dealing with reality too, but mostly when you're dealing with other people, and as a consequence, as you're dealing with reality. But I mean physical reality. So yes. The true, real spiritual process is a process of continuing shedding of personal illusions about who you are, about your life, about how it should be for you, about how it ends, about what's important in it. You see, basically just growing up, becoming true to yourself, becoming an adult, making peace with the fact that your time here is not finite. And all you can do, the best you can do, is enjoy every moment and love it with all your heart. So it is quite different from when the illusions really drop. It is quite different from the intellectual understanding when something is an illusion, because you literally cannot see it again as real. And some people that are sufficiently deep in witnessing, when they, as they go, like even through a very difficult kind of egoic drama, when there's, let's say, I don't know, like some real drama, intense, then they still on some level understand that they're just fooling around. So you see, because like once you really see something as illusion, not intellectual, not just being explained, but really see that it's difficult to fall victim to it again. Like I had one of the questions on the core, one of the early questions was, why don't enlightened people fall back to samsara? Right, and my answer, it's very obvious why that doesn't happen. Why authentic enlightenment is permanent? Because in order to go back to samsara, you would have to dream up something that doesn't exist and believe in it again. But this time you're not young. You're not a young child, and you're not afraid for your life anymore, because you're an adult and you're perfectly capable. So you're not in constant fear of this large, and you're not like, you're not in the stage of your development where you have to learn from adults how to behave, and they're all crazy, so you grow up crazy, right? So you're not in this stage, and hence, if you do it consciously. So you would have to know it. How can you knowingly deceive yourself? It's not possible. You can only deceive yourself unknowingly. How can you knowingly, without any use of pharmacology? But even with the use of hypnotherapist or anybody, how can you knowingly come up with something that doesn't exist and then convince yourself and then believe it does exist again? And make it a part of your psyche to always deal with that will be always active, and forget about it, right? It's very difficult to do it knowingly, right? That's the same reason, that hypnosis would never work. Hypnosis generally requires consent, maybe even unconscious, it doesn't matter. But when somebody's under hypnosis, they're not being controlled. They actually actively participating in it, and they do it all willingly. So they willingly go into their unconscious. So they basically are using the hypnotist in a specific setting, just like my students using me. And thus, it's also impossible in enlightenment, because it also requires a kind of a suspension of disbelief about what's going on right now, and going into the suppressed memories, emotions, and things like that. So it is always. I just wanted to underscore this difference between dropping an illusion for real and being intellectually knowing that there is something is an illusion, right? It's the same difference as seeing through ego, as people say, and living with no ego, or with integrated ego. It doesn't matter how you call it, but seeing through, or becoming one with, or dissolving. So that's the difference between knowing that something is illusory intellectually. So just come back to your question. It's extremely important to not treat anything as not real if it's real in your experience. Right? So what is not real and what is real can only be seen in retrospect. When you throw something out, when you see something as an illusion, when you realize something is an illusion, it drops automatically. Then you know it's no longer real, right? But to try to convince yourself that something is not real is a very strange thing. And it especially becomes strange when people say the world is not real, the objects is not real, like anything. Actually, the only thing that's not real, believe it or not, is your psyche. And when you actually realize that, what's that?
I understand the mental world because it happened to me that I suddenly realized that I was an illusion. But the physical world is not real. I don't understand.
No. That's not true. That's actually quite stupid. Because
the objects are not real. They're consciousness.
no. This is stupid. Yes. I mean, Osho said once that only a sage can say that the world is not real. Or maybe it wasn't Osho, maybe it was somebody else. I actually agree. Only a sage has the right to say the world is not real. But while you're still a sage, you're not yet enlightened. Continue. So yes, the world is not real, but the world is not real. When people say the world is not real, they actually refer to the mental world, to the world of the ego, right? Like the statement the physical world is not real is absurd. and not just it's not absurd because because of some philosophy, like people could say, well, that's my experience, fuck you, and they're right. That's not what I meant. That's not what I meant. The reason that is absurd. The reason that it's absurd is that if this is really an enlightened state, when the enlightened one actually finally realizes the ultimate truth, that the physical world is not real, that everything is not real, then if we were to take this just logically, it follows that an enlightened one would have no preferences whatsoever, right? From that, and some people would say, oh yes, that's exactly what it is. No, because from that logically it follows that there's exactly like 50-50 probability that he will kiss you or kill you, that he will go to the kitchen and take a bite of an apple, or that he will go to the kitchen and cut his arm off. No preference whatsoever means no preference whatsoever. Why would I love anybody? Why would I not harm people if the world is not real? Well, they would say, why would I? And I agree, sure, but the question is, why wouldn't you? Right? Why do all enlightened people suddenly become so nonviolent? Why do they become so loving? Is that because it's unreal? How's it related? It's not related at all. Like, it's not real. Why would you suddenly become loving if it's not real? Why? You see, no. Because when you realize that the psyche is not real, that your internal world is not real, then you realize that this world that you used to inhabit is the world of cruelty and judgments, is exactly what prevented you from seeing the real world, and how fragile it is, how fleeting it is. While you were concerned with all of your real dramas about who said what and stuff, the reality is that everybody's gonna die, and all of your stupid petty concerns are just wasting your time and energy, and you will forgive them anyway. Why not forgive them right away? Like, if you have a parent that is 20 years, 30 years, 40 years older than you, they're going to die while you're still alive. Most likely, you're going to forgive them anyway. Right? So, and when you realize the emptiness of all social condition drama, the emptiness of all emotions, basically, the emptiness of all relationships, then you realize the reality, and you become the real world, and you become extremely loving and caring and protective of it.
So you don't feel angry at all?
And I don't feel what?
Angry?
No.
Irritated, annoyed?
Never, pretty much. I pretty much never feel angry. No, never.
And does it also make you stop taking stand for something that you see? I mean, you know that it is out of illusion that people are doing things, and if you see someone harming someone, does it provoke you to take?
Yes.
It doesn't provoke you, I know, but then.
No, I don't get angry, but I do want to intervene if I know that I can. Yes. Because I don't want anybody harm anybody. I don't want any living being harm any other living being, at least out of conditioned reasons. What?
But that's also an idea, right? Like, for example, if someone is humiliating the other is getting humiliated because they have ego, and
I meant physically.
and the other person.
I meant harming. I meant actually harming. You're speaking about humiliation.
Emotional harming, what I meant.
Well, to me, all emotional harm is not real. So if I intervene with somebody emotionally harming somebody, it is kind of just in the same humane way as you would do it, right? So just as any human, I would protect a weaker, and I would intervene, and I would tell the stronger something, like who is the bully, basically, right? So sure, yes. I mean, sure, but so the fact that it's not real to me, right? The fact that you cannot harm me emotionally doesn't mean, or verbally, right? It doesn't mean that I don't understand the dynamics of what's going on, right? So I am moved automatically. I'm automatically moved to do something which is the best for everybody. That kind of happens automatically. That's actually rational. It's not a virtue. It's rational behavior. See, it's just that from a certain vantage point of, let's say, enlightenment, it seems like it's virtuous because ego, but it's only because ego is crazy, only because of that. So from a perspective of enlightenment, from a perspective of suffering, then so if somebody harming somebody maliciously, deliberately, right, then we have two people, right, and one is somebody who is causing emotional pain, who is a bully, right, who is also either in pain, or maybe is not in pain on the surface, but on the surface is a sadist. He enjoys like humiliating people or something like this, right? So there's a kind of an active beating on one person of the emotional beating, right? This, like, it is good for both of them generally, right? If they are in a position to listen to me, it is good for both of them to listen to me, because not only because even the person, even the bully is also making it worse for themselves, because they would have to experience later the guilt, the realization of how cruel they were. It's very difficult to realize and come to terms and come at peace with your own past cruelty. So I am caring for him by trying to point him into some situation where he wouldn't express it, where he would look inside and he would start looking instead of accumulating, right? Because like he would start sort of shedding instead of spreading. Because just like truth spreads, ignorance also spreads. Hurt people. So I'm sort of a counterbalance. But on the other hand, if they're not ready to listen to me, if they don't know me, if I would come off as just lecturing them then I would just make it worse, right? So there's also a principle of non-interference, way, or something like they call it, and I don't remember. But so I don't think about these things, but it kind of life sort of automatically moves me into usually non-interference, but if people ask me, or if I'm in a relationship, if I'm in a position to actually try and say something, I do. Just for example, I would not be non-interfering with my students. That's not my job. So I don't know to what extent it addresses it. What you brought up. But I want my life to be better. I want everybody's life to be better. And I want other people to suffer less, of course. I don't suffer if, like, it's not, I don't suffer if it doesn't happen, but it doesn't mean that I don't want it to happen, And if the whole world is not real, why love it? Why care about your fellow human beings if it's all just a dream? It's all just a dream is actually an extremely life-denying position. It's a denial of life. It's all just a dream. Okay, so then what do I do? Well, I'm waiting to wake up. Okay. You mean death? Okay, so is that what you're saying to me? And right now you're saying, so basically, did you just say to me that you don't live and you're just waiting to die? What are you saying to me when you say, well, my life is a dream? What do you mean? You see, it's interesting when you really start get to the bottom of things. Because the reality is that when people say, well, my life is just a dream, it's all not real, they're actually being truthful. But that also means that they're egos when they say that. Because for the ego's world is a dream, and the ego's world is not real. So they're basically saying, I'm not yet awake. You see? Verbatim. Not even hiding it. My life is a dream, and I'm not yet awake. Okay, fine. If you want to speak to me, I can help you, like try to yank you of this delusion. If you don't want to speak to me, then fine. I'm not going to interfere. If you think that's enlightenment, fine. Because usually, like, if people that get convinced that this is enlightenment, they're not really movable. Also, if they don't want to, if they don't like themselves sort of feel cold to dream less, then I usually can't move them. So don't try to. Yeah. So I guess you can really sort of be considered to be maturely realized when you stop saying ridiculous things. Like, I don't know, if you run around and tell everybody that this coffee doesn't exist, then maybe that's not enlightenment yet. But of course, yes. I mean, it's just basically this world doesn't exist. It's just realization of death. It's just realization that you're gonna die. That's all it is. That's all it is. Basically, it's just a euphemism for it. That's one way to look at it. Another way to look at it, and this is an ego says my world doesn't exist. That's also true. So, but sooner or later, that doesn't occur. I don't think this way. It doesn't occur for me to speak this way. It's just silly. I think somebody asked Adia like about emptiness, and he said something. He's just a little bit less direct, but he's saying all the same things. He says, emptiness. What emptiness? Show me your emptiness. Show it to me. Where is it? That's what he meant. And then he spoke about grounding and things like that. That's what he meant. You see, what emptiness? Touch something. Can you touch this? What emptiness are you talking to me about? Like everything is empty. You see, because usually people, when they speak about it, they usually speaking about themselves, but they speak, but they want to teach usually or something, or make a statement, and they make a statement as if it's about the world. And then, of course, all the suffering people are like, "Oh, nothing is real, so I don't have to suffer. Oh, I wanna follow you, right?" But if those people they don't teach others to actually embrace emotions, embrace their bodies, embrace life, rather than just try to find some ultimate, then they're bad teachers, and it usually doesn't work. If you focus on the divine, you will never reach it. If you focus on yourself, then you will get there, because there's nowhere left to go. So I think again, that's not my quote, but it's very beautiful. So yeah, so I think it is, of course, teachers like Adia, they don't suffer from this kind of delusion. They understand, and that's why he speaks a lot about that. That it's about what's right here, right now. It's also about your life. It's not just about some spiritual things. So yeah.
It's funny.
It is. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very funny. It is.
I think there's a question.
Nicholas says, "How long is this going for?" About an hour and a half, Nicholas, and you have just arrived for the title, so for the end of it. So next time. Well, guys, thank you. I appreciate it. I hope it was helpful to you. I hope that
It was.
it was good.
Yeah, I think it was a very nice
Yeah,
podcast.
very much.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Do you know, by the way, how you can know if it's helpful? Well, like if I don't know, if I were you, again, right? If I would watch like this, the whole process, right? This whole process, a little bit more intense emotions, like something like a little bit more calmness. Some emotions, a little bit more calmness. So if participating in my broadcast kind of does that to you, it kind of speeds up a little bit. Maybe it uncovers something in you, maybe some kundalini, whatever. Maybe but within like 2, 3, 4 days, you sort of you kind of start to feel that maybe it intensifies it. Uh, then yes, then it's useful for you. Yeah. So you sort of listen to yourself. Yeah, listen to yourself, and don't be afraid. Don't be afraid if you want to get to real uncomfortable places. Don't be afraid. That's kind of the point. You
Cool.
see, because like the real kind of, it's very nice to listen about all of this psychologically, right? But when people start talking about, let's say, their jealousy or their hatred or their insecurity and fear that, like, I don't know, they may be gonna split up with their partner, or the insecurity and fear of death of somebody, then it tends to, when things get real, when things get personal, it tends to, in my experience, kind of intensify a little this whole thing, and as a consequence, can be more productive. So listen to yourself. Listen to kind of. So kind of use me as an instrument to open yourself up. You see, kind of the extent to which you are shameless in that. I mean, it depends on you, right? So kind of don't be afraid, because I'm not gonna go. I'm not gonna, let's say, Monica, okay, well, what? Let's talk about something. Let's talk about sex. Let's talk about that. Tell me like your sexual insecurities or whatever, or something like that, so that it will get very uncomfortable for you, and then you will, like, maybe you will start some, working through some feelings of, like, whatever it could be that could be associated with that, right? So I'm not going to do that, just out of respect for you and for your privacy. So if any of you, like, want to have really personal conversations, then you kind of have to initiate them with me. Just, but it can be pretty damn efficient, you know. So anything that kind of uncovers your trauma, your emotional experience, everything that gives you something to love in yourself is a good practice.
Thank you, Artem.
I actually think, you're most welcome. I actually think that it is very unfortunate that people in the spirituality, they mostly think about it in the context of finding awareness, consciousness, because the real personal job usually happens after that. And it's unfortunate that people don't speak as much about, like, ordinary life, living in this state, and some people do, but it is quite rare in my experience. So I think we should speak more about that. I don't think we should speak of enlightenment as some sort of like a holy grail, and we should only speak about methods to get it because it's not how it works really. I mean, it's a lifelong journey of being more truthful and honest with yourself. That's what it is. Yeah. So it's unfortunate. Uh, all right. Well, thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Artem.
Bye.
Thank you.
Please.
Do we have next session on
What?
Monday? The last session I logged in, it was not there, so maybe I missed something.
What was not there?
The session I logged in on YouTube, but I couldn't find a live session on Wednesday, I think.
Oh, you mean the next one? Oh no, I haven't done it. Oh, you mean the recording from the Wednesday?
No, I tried to log in live, but I couldn't find the live session at all. I don't know.
I don't know what it means to log in live to YouTube. I don't know what it means.
I think she is referring to just watch it online. You watch the live stream, but on YouTube, not here.
I wanted to participate. Yeah.
Well, it is being broadcast on YouTube. I can see that. So, yeah, so I'm pretty sure it's gonna show up on YouTube sooner or later. Okay, so yeah, I'll see you on Discord. I guess I will announce the next conversation on Discord.
What is that?
So I have a Quora, I have a website, Facebook, and there's also Discord. So Discord is an online chat server. It's kind of like
Slack?
Yeah, it's kind of like Slack.
Okay.
And actually, why don't I give you the invitation link?
That would be great.
Okay.
It's a cool place, dude.
So I have posted an invitation link to the Discord community. So please join, and there I also announce new videos, and on Facebook. So I announce new. Oops. Yeah. So I just posted it. So yeah, I'll see you on Discord, guys. Good luck with your continued journey. Good luck in life. I wish you all well. Thank you very much for joining me. Thank you very much for your support and trust.
Thanks, Artem.
Okay.
Thanks, Artem.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, guys. Bye. You bet.